Welcome again to my tens and tens of friends. It is me, teacher TJ, and today I will be reading you a Reddit post. This Reddit post is from the preschooler subreddit by user Bye Bye Lil Sebastian, and it's 5 years ago. But so from time to time, I will bring old Reddits. I know there's enough Reddits out now that we don't really need to read old Reddits, but sometimes the titles are so fitting that I figure why not. And this one is titled, Do Your age 3 to 4 year old kids know how to read? If so, I have questions. Shout out to one of my students. She knows how to read. I think she's 3. No credit to me. Her mom taught her how to read. And yeah, she's a very good reader. But let's see what they have to say in this Reddit, and I will read the replies. There's not very many, and then I will catch you all in the next one. Okay. This Reddit starts by saying, so I have a 3-year-old, now referred to as kid, who loves books. Will ask us to read books for hours on end if we gave that option, which, let's be real, we don't because of life. If we don't read, we'll pick up books and read them to self-stuffies. Kid knows all the letters, most of the sounds, punctuation marks, not what they mean, just what they're called. Highly recommend. Hearing a 3-year-old say ampersand is funny. No, for real. My reader in our class, we were taking a walk, and she was like, "Where are we?" I'm like, "We're going on a walk." And she was like, "Well, are we in?" She said the city or the township of where we are specifically. And that just cracked me up because it's like, girl, why we just can't take a walk? But yeah, she does stuff like that on a continuous basis here. It makes me laugh quite a bit. But hearing a 3-year-old say ampersand is funny. Numbers can read, question mark, recognize. Own name and sibling's name, maybe. Excuse me. I think he would be very happy to know how to read, but also I don't want to put pressure on early reading because I trust that kid will learn to read in school. Currently, and full-time preschool and get some education there. Just looking to foster something that brings kid joy. And it said, for those with early readers, what did you do or did your kid just figure it out? And 2 is resources for pre-reading. And then Mo523 replies and says, my 3-year-old has done a little bit toward reading. So I went and asked a bunch of people what on earth I should do with that. I work in an elementary school. Here is what I know from my own training and inquiring. What do you do when you accidentally taught your kid to sound at CVC words? Like you said, definitely do not push it. If it comes, that's fine. And that's true. I do know that much. They have to want to first. I believe in providing opportunities when a child is ready and interested. But I've seen some kids in 3rd grade who will suffer from early learn reading being pushed. I heard that before too. Because like my early reader, she knows all her alphabets. She knows how to sound. She cannot spell. She's 3. And I heard from other teachers that, of course, there is order to this. And once you go out of order, it can cause issues with reading, with learning how to read. But I don't know what those issues are. Also, sometimes you hear stuff in an educational setting, and it's like, are you serious? Like, is that for real? Is that a real thing? To anyone who knows, drop it down in the comments because we would all love to know, like, what could be the repercussions of teaching a young child how to read before going to kindergarten. See, because personally, I would think that would give them a boost, but I've heard teachers say that they're not a fan of it. So I don't know. 2, make sure their education is well rounded. Good readers need to have schema, knowledge about lots of things in the world to understand. And yeah, my early reader, she knows. A lot of pre-math concepts are developmentally appropriate. Self-care skills, fine and gross motor, emotional regulation, and social skills are more critical at this age. Facts. If you just keep reading and invest your energies there, your child may figure it out. And if not, they will be better prepared for school than if you focus on reading. You sound like you are pretty balanced there already. 3, start with phonemic awareness before jumping into reading. There are a lot of games, activities, and songs to do with rhyming words or the same beginning sounds. My kid made up a game where we take turns blending and segmenting words. What is CAT? When you teach, start by teaching phonics, sounding out words, before intentionally teaching sight words you just recognize beyond their name. And I had a parent, now that kind of got under my skin. I had a parent who wanted me to teach her child how to read, yet they were, as far as emotional or socially, they were developing. But yet the mom was so interested in her child learning how to read So she took it up, and I was telling her like, "Girl, we'll wait for that." And she decided that she was going to start still teaching her furry because the baby was a cat, and it was a real person, but she preferred to behave as a cat, and mom totally encouraged that as well. So yeah, with her little furry, we'll try to get her to understand it's more important to learn the social skills before trying to force her to learn how to read. But she went ahead and taught her sight words, and she wasn't picking up on letters as quickly as mom wanted her to. But yeah, I wonder how that's going. Anyhow, at your kiddo's age, I just do short exposure once or twice a month to assess readiness. If they get it, offer opportunities more regularly. But know that is likely they won't have a straight line of growth. They will periodically forget and lose interest, even though they know a lot of advanced things. They may not be ready for the stage yet. It is a whole different stage of brain development. If they haven't started rhyming or noticing the same beginning sounds and words yet, which would be perfectly normal at this age, I hold off introducing phonics. Some ideas on how work on making words instead of just reading words, magnetic letters like this, for example, or whatever letters you, and there is a website listed for this, probably the magnetic letters, which we use those, for example, or whatever letters you have to make are good for this. What is the first sound? Find that letter, that kind of thing. I prefer to use lowercase letters because that is what you find in books, okay? Unless your kid is clearly ready. I might model it periodically, but not ask them to do it. Next, they say there are plenty of online free or paid things to teach phonics. I got this book, and it looks like something on Amazon to test out to teach my son letter sounds because he is a very active kid. You can just use it on the sounds if your kid is not ready to blend the words. I don't like that it is focused on capital, and I don't like the font, but otherwise it's great and it was cheap. Also, they add get some books that are beginning readers. Bob books are classic, but really anything with a lot of simple words. You can also look for printable books or write your own. You really don't need to buy anything to do this, especially because there is no hurry, and you can just wait until kindergarten or see if your kid figures it out. But I got this, which is a toy on Amazon, to test it out. I intended to save it for later, but my son really liked it and also liked the flashcards that came with it. I'm not big into worksheets and flashcards for preschoolers, and most organizations are not. My son likes them particularly, of course. It was actually what caused everything to click for him. He had all the pieces in his head, and I guess his brain had developed enough to get it. But this particular set made sense to the way he thinks, I guess. But then he got mad at it because he couldn't read all of the words. He still doesn't know a good half of the alphabet. Interesting. 5, when your child understands, but they have not completely mastered phonics, I then work more on sight words. 3 through 4, I guess if your child is 3 to 4, I wouldn't be pulling out flashcards or anything. But I point out common words that can be sounded out like the when reading. There are lots of games if that is something your child would enjoy. Also, I label everything in the house in an easy to read font, and that's what I intend to do in my child care's home as well. Again, I want to reiterate to take it slow and just keep enjoying the books. If your child starts to show an ability and interest, I would just make more resources available to them to facilitate that learning. If it isn't coming together yet, I'd work on other things, but just keep throwing it out there to see if they are ready. There is some very specific brain development that has to happen before kids really learn to read. And the developmentally typical age is 4 through 7, which is a crazy range. For example, as far as other academic things, working on learning to write if they are ready and on better cutting skills may be of interest, or learning to add very small numbers together, etc. Have fun. Gremlin 1989 says, I completely agree with this. I'm a primary teacher, and if you push learning at preschool age, be prepared to maintain that effort moving forward. I've seen many children who start school above average, but dip as parents assume the learning is then taken on by teachers exclusively and stop doing stuff with them at home. I've got a 2.5-year-old. We're starting on phonics. I recommend prioritizing that before words, as then they can learn to read anything by breaking it down. Yeah, that's why I'm kind of against sight words, because I rather they know how to break the word down than to just see the word and memorize it, because that does not teach reading. That just teach how to identify sight words. They need to be able to decode to read, or they just rely on reading words they recognize and get stuck with the new ones. Hi, little Sebastian. The OP says, got it. Nervous Lifeguard 1630 says, precisely. Teach them phonics like we learned in the 70s with the electric company in Sesame Street. I taught my 20, I taught my now 29-year-old this, and my then grandmother assisted. Now with my 4-year-old, I'm just like, wait, you got a 29 and a 4-year-old? Now I heard the age gaps. Maybe I am carrying on the same way, and he is reading already on his own. He plays with Tech Teach My Monster, a free online learning game, and has mastered many of these so-called sight words through this game and VHS of the electric company. I understand this was a year ago, but VHS? Where they supposed to get that from? When they learn the sounds, they can then learn the letters better. There is also a show, Word World, that he also loves. It teaches the letters that letters are important. They build words on the show. The alphabet sung is useless if they can't recognize the letters on paper. I like to apply pictures to the letters as well as numbers, so there is something to associate it with. By doing this, my youngest has gained more knowledge of letters and numbers than he did at daycare. I have also applied some old songs from my childhood that is helping him with the days of the week, with happy days and telling time with rock around the clock. Music is a universal language that the mind clings to. Schoolhouse Rock also has my youngster chiming out his 5 timetables. Some new is good, but keeping the past alive when teaching has paid off too. The OPE says, thank you for the detailed response. I love those toys you suggested. They are great. Busy Robot says, a couple of months before she turned 4, she kept asking, what's this word? She knew all the sounds of the alphabet, so I made a lot of post-its with a bass sound and a changing first letter. AT for bat, cat, hat, mat, fat, pats, rat, sat. IT for pit, bit, knit, hit, fit, lit, sit, with, wit, etc. First time, I only introduced the at words, and she couldn't sit through the whole thing, so I dropped it. But next day, I just recited the words, and she was interested in pronouncing. I kept reviewing for a few days, pointing at words and having her say it before I introduced IT words. Then other combos. Phonics is tripping me up. She'll ask why a word starts with a C instead of a S, circus. And I remember the rules, but don't want to bog her down now. I hope that doesn't hurt her in the future. Whatever book I'm reading to her, I'll start pointing to words I know she knows and have her say them. Book reading started taking an hour, so I've been borrowing books from the library, asking the librarian to point me to proper types, maybe prototypes, repetitive stuff like cat sat on mat with a hat. Finishing a book is an accomplishment and fueled her interest in more reading. She just turned 4. Kudos to that mom or dad. Working Dad 87 says, why a word starts with C instead of S, circus? Because English is weird, is a weird language, and is really 3 languages stacked on top of each other wearing the trench coat. I need to sleep, says, my son loves letters so much he will take out all of his toys puzzles that have letters and arrange them. He knows all of the sounds that all of the letters make and asks more questions. So I found phonics flashcards at Target, and he likes for me to go through them with him. They differentiate soft sounds versus hard sounds and have a picture and some examples of similar words, circus, ceiling, city, etc. We don't do it that often because he's not even 4 yet, but just whenever he feels like it. He doesn't always find soft and hard words correctly, but it's so adorable hearing him try. Sounds like your little one, LO, is a little older, so she might be further along in the process, but the flashcards might help provide some guidance if she likes them. Ginger Kale says, my niece taught herself to read right around her 4th birthday, according to her parents. It really started happening just when she got interested in an old phonics book they happened to have lying around. Reading is like any other skill. If your kid is interested, go ahead and lean into it as much as they want. But if they'd rather talk about trains or rhinoceroses that day, respect that too. Cattle Cat says, we taught the alphabet to our kid, 4-year-old, with the sound of each letter, and he understands quickly how to read 2 letters together. He can read easy words, the ones that spell like you hear, and anytime we see a sign, example is in the street or word in the book, that's easy to read. And we call those environmental print. I don't know if I just made that up, but basically it's like reading McDonald's, and maybe your kid can read Bluey. Really, they know what it looks like. They know Bluey has a certain font and so they could read Bluey. I'll be looking for some easy books to read when he's 5, but I'm wondering how to teach the exceptions. And also, I'm worried he might be bored at school if he reads already. He'll start TK if everything goes well in August. Geeky Chica says, my 4-year-old plus 3 months, is starting to read. She's been practicing letters for about a year, maybe a bit longer, and has always loved books. She is getting pretty good at sounding words out. Of course, some words and books she just recognized from having read them 100 times before. But since she started showing real interest, we make sure she gets at least a little practice reading something unfamiliar on most days. 851518 says, I started teaching my daughter when she was 4. We made it fun and there's no harm in it. She can read simple books with help at 5. I have definitely heard of kids reading when they're 3, so it's not impossible. The book I used was this. I don't know what this is, but it has a very science based approach that gives them good concepts. But the OP replies saying, awesome, definitely what I'm looking for. I'm not a teacher and I don't want to confuse, teach wrong, or undo what my kid is learning in preschool. Okay, we have a few more posts to read and then we're going to wrap up. Fab for Fan 64 says, very interesting. I'll have to mention punctuation to my son. There are a few books he's memorized. Others, he just follows the pictures and pieces the story together pretty well. He's really into tablet apps that read books to him. We use the local library e-reader app, Khan Academy, and ABC Mouse. We also did a free trial of Epic, but decided to go with ABC Mouse subscription instead. Some days I regret that. He has been asking, what's this say, for a few months, and he'll start pre-K in the fall. I'm anxious to see how he'll skyrocket. I don't wish to stifle any excitement in reading, but I have been getting a few longer books from the library to read to him, and we seem to enjoy listening and watching just the same as picture books. Introvert Mommy says, my son was the same as yours in terms of interest, and I noticed he was able to memorize things easily. About 3 and a quarter, I put up sight words. Didn't practice them much at all, but he just got it. I add a few words to his list every month, so, and he just slowly started to read. The OP said, I think I'll start doing this. Did you label things around the house or just pick words at random? Did the words have pictures next to them? Mommy replied saying, I used the list of kindergarten sight words. Google it. Words like the, you, do, be, etc. I think that and knowing the letter sounds helped him figure out what things said. Home says, my kiddo was in 4K last year. And when lockdown happened, we both needed ways to fill the time and feed his brain. He was super into letters and phonics, so we did a lot of reading scavenger hunts. Example is I write down a word on the chalkboard in the kitchen and we sound it out together. Then he'd have to navigate an obstacle course and come back with the object. I use phonic things, so all B words or words with OO sounds. Or I would hide a bunch of words, give him a riddle, and he would have to sound them out to figure out which ones was the answer. Eventually, we worked up to letter blocks at the end of the obstacle course, and he used them to spell the word and then come racing back. It was fun for both of us, with the added bonus of keeping his phonics and letter recognition fresh. Way better than pretending to be kittens for the 57,983rd time. Ask me how I know. And the OP replies saying, this sounds amazing. We do obstacle courses to get energy out. I think incorporating phonics might be a fun twist. Thanks for your suggestion. And OK Condition 994 says, mine is a few months into age 3, and she is reading decodable books with CVC words. Generally, when she asks questions, I try my best to truly answer them. Shortly after she began talking, she was a late talker. She began asking what everything said. When we read together, she would point out individual words and ask me what that word said and how I knew it said that. So we dabbled in phonics from the beginning, and I always followed the text with my finger as we read. She kept asking, so I kept trying to answer. She knew all of her letter sounds well before age 3, just because she asked me all the time. Once she asked, we sound out words together. That's really the extent of the instruction she has been given. When reading a new book, I mistakenly read a word wrong and she corrects me. So it was time for something new to challenge her. I intentionally made some more mistakes and let her keep correcting me. Now she frequently requests that I mix up the words so she can read too. So we do that. I make a point to mostly mix up CVC words. We recently started reading decodable books, and that is fun for her too. And we still read lots of regular kids' books together that she couldn't handle on her own. There's a guy on Instagram called Toddlers Can Read. I feel like he gives good explanations and it helps me prepare for the questions that my kid asks. Awkward Sea Turtle says it's not age appropriate from early childhood education perspective. Yep, that's what they say. Just continue what you are doing. He's at the perfect stage for 3 to 4. Don't push skills too early. It will backfire later in development. Work on phonological awareness like rhymes, syllables, and compound word picture games. Those are the next skills children need to cultivate next in the literacy process. Also, focus on conversation and providing more complex vocabulary. It goes hand in hand with emerging literacy skills. Have fun. Feels like Teen Spirit says, my now 4 year old reads. She learned when she was 3. Was just like yours, always wanting us to read to her. She eventually just figured it out. But I remember right before she picked it up, I felt just like you, that she would love to be able to read. I don't think I did much aside from continuing to read to her. We were stuck at home anyway. But a friend sent over Bob books, sight words, when she was 2. And we also had some early reader Disney books with short repetitive sentences. She began reading those first. She picked it up really quickly, and now she's even capable of reading chapter books. At 4, go kid. But she still would rather we read to her. Of course, I say it's 50-50. Now, with us reading to her versus her reading things herself, it's kind of a double edged sword, though, because now she reads my text, my reader. I'd be like, girl, get out my business. If she can, because you get in the business, I can just sit here with my phone like this and not really pay no attention to if the kid see my phone or not. But when she around, I'll be like, cause she be in it so hard. I'll be like, what the girl, go play. Like, get out my business. We talked about this. But yeah, that was definitely a double-edged sword. The only thing about her is like sometimes we can spell things out and she won't catch that as quickly as, her reading it. She reads my text and I can't talk about her to anyone unless I want her to know. And that was our last reply for this thread. Thank you so much for tuning in to my tens and tens of friends. If you have not subscribed, please do so now. Just click it and then go get a friend and tell a friend that we can all be friends by subscribing and joining in. All right, 10. Bye for now. Bye, 10. Welcome again to my tens and tens of friends. It is me, teacher TJ. I don't know why that always causes more collection of saliva in my mouth during any time of the day. The minute I say it's me, teacher TJ, something happens. I don't know. But yeah, finger hurts.